The job posting was strange, odd even for the weird part of the internet. Night owl needed, high stress tolerance a must, discretion mandatory, excellent hourly rate. Alex, a college student drowning in student loans, clicked anyway. He needed the money. The address was a string of numbers and symbols, like a code. Curiosity piqued, Alex typed it into his browser. The map led to a dilapidated building downtown, a place seemingly forgotten by time. Intrigued and desperate, Alex decided to go for the interview. The building was even creepier up close. Boarded-up windows stared back like empty eyes. The air hung heavy with the smell of dampness and decay. Hesitantly, Alex pushed open the creaking door. Inside, dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through cracks in the walls. A long, winding staircase spiraled upwards into darkness. He took a deep breath and started climbing, each step echoing in the silence. On the top floor, a single door stood ajar, emanating an eerie green glow. Alex's heart pounded against his ribs. The room was bare, the air thick with an unsettling silence that seemed to press in from all sides, except for a desk and two chairs, both ancient and worn, as if they had witnessed countless untold stories. Behind the desk sat a figure shrouded in a dark cloak, an aura of mystery and dread surrounding them. Alex couldn't make out any features, only the faint glow of two pinpricks of light where eyes should be, piercing through the darkness like tiny beacons. The figure gestured to the chair, the movement slow and deliberate, as if inviting Alex into a web of unknown fate. "You have a certain disposition," the figure rasped, their voice a dry whisper that seemed to echo in the stillness of the room. Alex swallowed, his throat suddenly dry, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "You're looking for an intern?" he managed, his voice a nervous squeak, barely audible in the oppressive silence. The figure chuckled, a low, rattling sound that sent shivers down Alex's spine, filling the room with an eerie resonance. "Intern, assistant, apprentice, call it what you will," the figure continued, each word dripping with a sinister undertone. Fear warred with curiosity in Alex's gut, a tumultuous mix of emotions that left him feeling both intrigued and terrified. He knew this encounter was far from ordinary, and the stakes were higher than he could comprehend. His hand trembled slightly as he reached for the chair, the weight of the decision heavy on his mind. The figure leaned forward, the glow of their eyes intensifying, as if they could see straight into Alex's soul. Gathering his courage, Alex took a deep breath and sat down, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The figure nodded, a slow, deliberate motion that seemed to seal Alex's fate. The room seemed to grow darker, the flickering candlelight casting long, dancing shadows on the walls. Alex's eyes, now filled with determination, met the glowing orbs of the figure, a silent understanding passing between them. The figure extended a hand, the gesture both a challenge and an invitation. Alex reached out, their hands meeting in a firm grip, sealing the pact that would change his life forever. The room, now filled with a sense of foreboding, seemed to hold its breath, as if aware of the momentous decision that had just been made. Alex's face reflected a mix of fear and resolve, ready to embrace the unknown journey that lay ahead. They were in an alleyway, the stench of garbage assaulting Alex's nostrils. The air was thick with the smell of decay and rot, making it hard to breathe. The dim lighting cast eerie shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of dread and unease. The figure, who Alex now understood was Death, or something very much like it, handed him a small silver pocket watch. The watch was cold to the touch, its surface smooth and polished, reflecting the faint light from the street lamp above. Alex could feel the weight of the responsibility that came with it. Time of death is precise. Death rasped, its voice devoid of emotion. The words hung in the air, heavy and final, leaving no room for doubt or hesitation. Alex felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the gravity of the situation. A homeless man lay huddled in a doorway, his chest barely rising. His clothes were tattered and dirty, and his face was gaunt and hollow. The man looked like he had been through a lifetime of suffering, and now he was on the brink of death. Alex looked back at Death, his stomach churning. He felt a wave of nausea wash over him as he tried to process what was happening. The reality of the situation was overwhelming, and he struggled to find the words to respond. I can't," he stammered. His voice was barely above a whisper, and he could feel his hands trembling. The thought of being responsible for someone's death was too much for him to bear. Death merely tilted its head, the gesture unsettlingly devoid of malice. It was as if death was simply acknowledging Alex's fear, but not offering any comfort or reassurance. The silence that followed was deafening. "It is already done," Death said, its voice a soft whisper. The words were like a cold breeze, sending shivers down Alex's spine. He realized that there was no turning back, and that the man's fate was already sealed. The man's chest gave a final, shuddering sigh, and then he was still. The silence that followed was profound, and Alex felt a deep sense of loss and helplessness. He knew that this was just the beginning of his journey, and that there would be many more assignments to come. Section 5. A Night of Terror. The night was a blur of flashing lights, hushed whispers, and the metallic tang of blood. A car crash on the highway, the victims mangled beyond recognition. An old woman in her bed, her face peaceful in sleep. A young man, barely older than Alex, cut down in a drive-by shooting. Each death was a hammer blow to Alex's psyche. Each life extinguished, leaving a gaping hole in the world. Through it all, death remained an impassive observer, the silver pocket watch a constant reminder of the fleeting nature of time. Section 6. The Weight of Death. Alex felt a crushing weight settle in his chest, a leaden weight of sorrow and despair. He had never considered himself particularly religious, but the sheer finality of death, the abrupt cessation of life, shook him to his core. The faces of the dead swam before his eyes, a tapestry of lives cut short, stories left unfinished. He tried to shut it out, to block the images and emotions, but they clung to him like cobwebs, whispering their tales of love, loss, and regret. Section 7. A Loss of Innocence. The world seemed different now, sharper, more fragile. The laughter of children on the street, the bustle of the city, the mundane rhythm of everyday life, all of it seemed precious, precarious. The veil of ignorance had been lifted, replaced by the stark reality of mortality. He looked at people on the street and saw not strangers, but souls, each one a flickering candle flame in the vast darkness. The world was no longer a place of infinite possibilities, but a finite journey, a countdown to an inevitable end. Section 8. The Reaper's Lesson. As dawn painted the sky in hues of gray and purple, death turned to Alex, its skeletal features barely visible in the faint light. "Life is fleeting," Death rasped, its voice a dry whisper. A breath, a heartbeat, a blink of an eye. Alex looked away, unable to meet the entity's gaze. "Why?" he croaked, his voice hoarse with exhaustion and unshed tears. "Why show me this?" Death tilted its head, the faintest hint of amusement in its tone. "To teach you the value of time," it said. "To teach you to truly live." Section 9. Facing Mortality. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Alex stared at his reflection in the window of a nearby car, his face pale, his eyes haunted. He looked different, older, as if the night's events had etched themselves onto his very being. For the first time, he truly understood his own mortality. He was not invincible, not exempt from the natural order of things. He was just another soul, another story waiting to be written, another life destined to end. Section 10. The Pact. "I can't do this anymore," Alex whispered, his voice trembling. The weight of the night, the sheer volume of death he'd witnessed, was too much to bear. Death turned towards him, its skeletal face unreadable. "You have a choice," Death rasped, extending a bony hand. "Walk away, forget this night ever happened, or—" Alex stared at the offered hand, his mind a maelstrom of fear and morbid curiosity. What was another choice, another path? He found himself reaching out, his hand trembling as it met the Reaper's icy grip. Section 11. The Aftermath. The next thing Alex knew, he was waking up in his own bed, his heart pounding in his chest. The morning sun streaming through his window seemed almost surreal, as if mocking the darkness he had just endured. It felt like a dream, a horrific, vivid nightmare that he couldn't shake off. His mind raced, trying to piece together the fragments of the night, but the weight in his chest lingered, a constant reminder of the night's events. It was as if an invisible hand was gripping his heart, refusing to let go. As he went about his day, the faces of the dead flickered at the edges of his vision. haunting him with their silent accusations. Their whispers echoed in his ears, a chilling reminder of the pact he had made. He couldn't escape their voices, no matter how hard he tried. He knew with a chilling certainty that death and the pact he had made would not be so easily forgotten. The Reaper's presence was a shadow that loomed over him, a constant companion in his waking hours. He was changed, irrevocably bound to the Reaper. The darkness had seeped into his soul, altering him in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. He was left to wait and wonder when death would come calling again. Each tick of the clock was a reminder of the inevitable, a countdown to an unknown fate. As he walked through the crowded streets, he felt a profound sense of isolation. The world moved on, oblivious to the torment that plagued him. He longed for the days before the pact, when life was simple and unburdened by the weight of his choices. But those days were gone, lost to the shadows of his past. Now he stood at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. The future was a dark, uncertain road, and he could only hope to find some semblance of peace. Despite the fear and uncertainty, a spark of determination ignited within him. He would face whatever came his way, no matter the cost. With a deep breath, he took his first step forward, ready to confront the darkness that awaited. The aftermath of his choices would shape his destiny, and he was prepared to face it head-on.